Hi, Lee.
Hi. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, so last time we talked about your trip to Nepal and India. And so, do you want to share a little bit more the story happened when you were traveling there? It was quite a long time, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I went to India and Nepal, like not just once, but to India 4 times, to Nepal 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah. So last time I talked about my first travel to India and Nepal, which
Mm-hmm.
in a way was very, very intense experience because I was 21 only and I was really very my travels were so unprepared. So I really like every day I just saw how life evolved at that day, which was also quite challenging because I just was yeah really just floating.
Is there any kind of language issue there, or you have to adopt different culture there, yeah? Because
Yeah, I mean language issue not so much. I
mm,
because uh, especially in India, English is a national language. It's an official language there, and of course, not everybody speaks English, but
mm,
a lot of people speak some basic English, um, and and there is normally somebody is around who's able to talk in English. And
mm,
in Nepal, not of course. And so the education level is maybe generally even lower in Nepal, but because it's more rural, like many places are more rural than in India, so less places that have like city kind of schools and education. And so in Nepal, maybe less people speak English. On the other hand, there's a lot of tourism, so they're also aware that English is really important, and especially the young people normally do speak a lot of English in Nepal, and they're interested in playing Western music and having bands, and so they were really open and very interested.
mm.
And yeah, and at the same time, yes, we have to adopt to if we go there. Of course, we have to adopt to the culture.
Mm,
I had a kind of an advantage. I think that I'm like more of a dark type, although I'm clearly like a European type person, but like I think if you have blonde hair, you stick out a lot more than I did, and I also often used scarves and or shawls, and I just try to assimilate a lot in the culture and just to get the feel of how people move and how the crowd moves, and not to stand
mm,
out too much. And that was actually all the time super helpful. Like so
mm,
to India, I went to India for 4 times, and 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 2 times for several months, for 6 or 7 months. Um, so I really had time to get to know the culture. Of course, you could always go deeper, but I still had a couple of months to assimilate. And also like it is a matter of mindset. I kind of when I first came to India, I think I mentioned before that I had this initial feeling of having a warm welcome from Mother India, and and also I kind of easily felt like part of it. So and that was I think I intuitively felt that that's really important. That you don't feel like, oh wow, I'm so foreign, I'm afraid what's going to happen, I look strange, or but I just felt okay, just be part of it and flow with it, and I think that was really helpful. At the same time, in when I first went to Haridwar, which is North India,
mm,
like that was maybe my first visit, like the sixth day of my travel, so very fresh experience when I went there. So it's a huge pilgrimage place where Ganga or the Ganges is flowing through, the holy one of the holy rivers in India, Ganga or Ganges in English. And so there are, like, it's a very important Hindu pilgrimage place. And I went there, and I also went there on purpose because I knew it's not like a very touristy place in the sense that a lot of Westerners go there. So I kind of went for the more hidden places. And at the same time, a lot of Indian pilgrims are there. And so I was in the middle. I found myself at the Ganges, and there were lights, and like, people bring lights to the Ganges and offer them, and flowers. So it's a ceremony. Every evening there is a puja, a ceremony for Ganga, for Ma Ganga, Mother Ganga. And then once the ceremony was over, I like was just standing next to the river, and suddenly like a huge circle built around me, like maybe 30, 40, 50 people, and they all looked at me because I was the only foreigner, or like obviously not Indian person in at this very place. And it was really a strong experience because I didn't feel offended at all. So that was all like very friendly faces, but they really had the wish to look at me because I was somehow interesting and new to them. And I think, and then some little conversations took place with one or the other person there. But just like it took like really several minutes that they were just looking at me. And it was like very, very strong.
It's amazing, yeah.
And that didn't happen any other time, even in India. So it was really, really interesting.
Like, what did you feel about, like you mentioned in those, even I can feel like I was there, like you feel this energy around you, yeah. There are people in the river, but you basically you sense there's a very strong energy with you. How much it affect you? Like, I mean, like your dream, your work, and you do creative works, yeah. Like those, like I do you feel like it was a little bit overwhelming?
I mean, generally, probably my first time in India was, in a way, very overwhelming. And India and Nepal. At the same time, like, these moments stand out, and in a way, I was also probably looking for like these special moments that just you will remember forever. And although I was like, yeah, it's a strange mix of feeling like having this strong moment of people looking at you, but at the same time feeling also connected. So it was not a moment of fear or anything, but just like interest, mutual interest, and just like even a sense of what I felt from the beginning of connection. And yeah.
Did you went to some place and meet some people and you feel like this is like uh, deja vu, like where like something like that?
Yeah, maybe in Nepal I can say that I, yeah, somehow I felt familiar with the culture, although I've never been there, or even the landscapes, or but I mean, there was no like very specific déjà vu that I consciously had, but like just the overall well-being that I felt.
Yeah. So you went there. Okay. So before you went there, you already know some people there, yeah?
No,
No?
actually, I mean,
Sorry, just.
yeah. So I told you last time that like the family of my friend in Salzburg
Yes.
gave me warm welcome
Mm,
in Delhi. So
mm,
that's probably what you remembered.
the only,
And
yes.
but I didn't know them. I just knew their son, basically. And so
So how do
um,
you plan your trip?
I booked a flight and from Delhi to Vienna and back, or Vienna to Delhi and back. And like after 3 weeks in India, I felt, yeah, as you said, I felt also overwhelmed by like this a lot of people there and crowded cities, and I felt like I needed more connection to nature, and I was very interested in Nepal. And since I was in the north of India, um, I decided to go straight to Nepal by bus. And so uh, I didn't plan that. I maybe in the beginning, like I could have also taken a flight to Nepal, but they were more expensive, and I had this connection to Delhi, to the Delhi family. So in a way, it was easier to go to India first. But in the end, it was important for me to see some of Nepal. Like that was just when I followed my heart, that was important. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Did you meet some yogis? Like, I mean, like serious uh, yoga practitioners?
Not in the first trip.
Mm,
I saw several, like a lot of people going to temples and worshipping various gods in the temples.
mm,
But in the first, and I had some connection to Tibetan Buddhism. I'm not connection, but I met like Tibetan Buddhists also practicing Buddhist. Um, yeah, but the connection with the yogis maybe came a bit later. When I went for the second time, I mean, in the beginning, it was not like the second time I spent 5 months in India. And I stayed for a long time in Benares or Varanasi, which is also at the Ganga. And it's
okay.
also an important Hindu pilgrimage place. And okay, I didn't meet like with yogis there so much, but nevertheless, I was actually visiting a spiritual place that was very important for me. And I went there often, and it's a Krishnamurti place, a place that was founded by the Theosophical Society and Krishnamurti. So around 1940, 1950 in Varanasi. And so Krishnamurti was kind of a preacher or a spiritual person who gave talks about life and about how to unfold yourself. And there are several schools he founded in India, and one of them is in Varanasi. And so I also visited the school and saw how kids were taught in that spirit. And I was in at that time, so that was 2010, 11. I was very touched by the Krishnamurti teachings. And in a way, he also said, like, he called what he preached, he called, or he didn't even say he was a preacher. He was but nevertheless, he was kind of a spiritual teacher. But what he said, it's a pathless land. So truth or whatever you want to explore inside yourself, or about the nature of the universe, or like the nature of the essence of being in a way, nobody can guide you. He said it's a pathless land, and so you have to find your own way. And but what I like, even more important, what he said or his messages was what I felt at this place. Like I felt this profound silence that was there in the places where he taught. And so I kept visiting them and diving into the talks he gave. And also I met other people who listened to his talks. And I made a friend there. He was Indian. And I mean, he never said he was a yogi, but he was really cultivating this silence a lot. Just this entering into every moment with a heightened, with a awareness that expands. And that was really important for me at that time.
So would you say the first trip and the second trip, you have very different experience?
Yeah.
You feel like you grow, yeah? You grew between them, and because it seems like for the first time it's more like traveling, yeah. Like, and the second time you really make more connection and maybe for the practice.
Yeah, and I really had the feeling I want to learn something. I want to be in touch with what, like India. There is no India like one India, but what the culture could offer. And at the same time, I was not. I didn't feel to go to any yoga institute and take some yoga class, although I was interested in yoga. But I just, at that time, I didn't feel it was the right thing to do like asanas or posture practice, or like to do a yoga class. And I was really maybe more looking at the philosophical traditions. Yeah, I studied at a library there with an Austrian Indologist, and she was also a very interesting person. Her name is Bettina Bäumer. And so I could ask her questions in German also. She was also living in the same place at that time in Varanasi.
Wow.
And yes. And I think the connection with Bhupesh, the yogi type I was talking about just a minute ago, was really important for me. And it's so funny because he just wrote me 2 months ago, although we were not in touch for more than 10 years. And so in a way, he was really a very otherworldly person. Although now he also uses the internet and that, and of course he's just a normal human being, but he was into some different stuff that he didn't really live a very normal life.
Yeah, this, I think for any, let's say, any person who is interested in digging deeper into themselves spiritually, sometimes, like, did you find there's some kind of struggle? Maybe I would like to stop using internet for a while. Like, maybe the technology, the artificial environment is, is taking away, those. You feel that, yeah?
Yes, I mean, In a way, yes. So both two things. So first of all, whenever I go into the forest or on the mountain, or let's say most of the times, or do a walk in the snow, or see, I don't know, see a sunset, or maybe just really small things like hearing a bird singing, that it really gives me a deeper connection to life.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really, really, really essential to connect with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I really often had the experience that even in a small room or in the middle of the city, or even when it's very noisy, you can still go feel, if you train a bit, like the silence underneath,
Mm-hmm.
or above, or whatever. But like a stream of being or silence that doesn't stop, even if things are very noisy and very chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easier to connect in nature, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
But still, once you find a connection, and I don't say that I have the connection all the time, but it happens that I reconnect. So I cannot direct it like anytime, but it happens if I have the wish to reconnect to that inner space of silence, I can go
Mm-hmm.
there. And even if it's noisy
Mm-hmm.
or chaotic, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's
And
interesting.
and that's that's really, I think, this part of learning deepened when I met Pupesh at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really strong in that. Mm. And he was a bit older than me, maybe 5, 6 years older, but he was not like, he was still a quite young person to have developed that.
Mm-hmm. I see. So now we are in your second trip, yeah? I'm just trying to go back to
Yeah.
the timeline. So second trip. Um, so basically, um, maybe we can continue for those more story on your second trip, because I think 5 months is
Yeah.
yeah, there probably quite a lot happening during the trip, yeah.
Yeah. But I think in
Yes,
terms of, I mean, there's a lot of, uh, maybe even more so, like the story continues maybe in the third trip, in the
I see.
fourth trip.
Mm,
Um, yeah, because in like the essence of what was really important in the second trip was already what I was
mm.
talking about.
Yeah, we can continue for the maybe the third trip next time. Yeah.
Yeah, third or fourth.
Yeah, because I'm trying
Yeah,
to organize myself like
yeah, exactly.
mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's precious to listen to your experience. Yeah.
Mm, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Did
And
you, Lee, did you do a meditation before, or?
I do a little bit. I think like when I listen to mm, like I think there are different kind of technique, and maybe the way I do is a bit maybe strange to other people, because I have this process. I was building basically building my own philosophy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when you connect to the meditation, I do two things. One is recreation of the world. Um, so basically, you know,
Wow.
I try to do it, yeah, from the beginning. Um, and, and second is the basic breathing process, inner
Ah,
breathing, yeah. So I
mm.
will sometimes when I'm conscious in my dream, which is occasionally, I will
Yeah.
try to see what is the result. Because I do, for example, I have this basic begin being smallest and being biggest practice. So,
Wow.
and in my dream, it's already funny because maybe my condition. So when I become smaller, I actually feel like I'm falling. And when I become larger, I feel like I'm, ascending. So it's like, okay, it shouldn't be like this, but it's like that. But I
Yeah.
have those practice, and I do different direction. Yeah. So the basic one without direction. Um, but the second one, I start to go for the clockwise, counterclockwise, kind of basically certain, because how I understood is you also connect to the recreation of the world. So there's certain steps, yeah. So I try to follow the step, and I compare to, for example, when I practice Aikido, I do Aikido practice. So I say, okay,
Right.
so okay, my body should maybe follow this way. It's a process. And when I do drawing, I also think, okay, so this is a basic practice I should do, and a second practice, third practice to build a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm trying to apply what do I believe in different different aspects,
Yeah.
different materials. That's so yeah. But I couldn't say like I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to philosophy or yoga practice or
Mm.
yeah.
It doesn't even matter, I think, because in the end, it's really melting into what happens in the moment, and the
Mm,
knowledge can be even a block. Like if you expect certain things to happen and they may not happen, or they may happen in
mm,
different ways, so it could even block you.
mm,
And
that's right. Yeah.
I think it's really more important to, like what I hear from you, to follow a certain interest and feeling. Like I want to feel how it is if I'm really small, like the particles or the atom,
Mm,
and what your imagination, um, how your imagination helps you to become that.
mm, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And like, I was asking you like, did you feel like it was overwhelming
yeah.
in the place? Because there's so many times I feel that. We have this place in Halifax. It's a cemetery where the remain were from the Titanic, the famous Titanic thing. So I visited one time. I
You're in Toronto.
in Halifax, in another
Ah, in
city.
Halifax. Yeah,
I will
yeah.
see.
That's
Yes,
why Halifax
yeah,
sounds famous, familiar. Yeah.
yeah. Because the cruise ship sunk near Lavalado. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they brought the remain into Halifax, and I just visit this place with other people, and I immediately had headache. Like I had such a
Mm.
strong headache because I sense the energy there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can feel like they want to communicate with me. So
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm.
that's me. I try to do. Sometimes I don't know if I maybe maybe open too much to what is surrounding.
Mm-hmm.
What do I share with with environment and the energy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I sometimes I have a difficulty to to control and to somehow put a boundary there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that
Yeah,
that,
I
that's my
understand. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's my situation. But
Mm.
that's why it's so valuable to hear other people's experience,
Yeah.
because you don't see. Yeah, like sometimes you don't see those experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a inner inner process and all those kind of things.
Yeah, and then, but on an, like, if you're a very empathetic person, and so you can start to share these experiences in a way, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for sharing
yes,
that.
yes. Yeah. So yeah, we can, if you wish, we can also continue next time. And
Yeah.
so we want to see what is the third trip, will be the part three of the of your trip, life
Mm.
journey. Can I call it life journey? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because every time I do a trip, I once felt like it very clearly that it somehow, like, the bottom of myself gets turned, like I get turned upside down, and like the inside goes outside and the outside goes inside, and so it's a transformative process, to especially to do long trips, I think. So in a
Yeah.
way, it was, for me, it was always connected to my personal searching for I want to do next in my life, and in many cases it was really fruitful, which is lucky. So it's true that in a way, like, each trip to India, but not only to India, but India was always important. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time today. So yeah,
Thank you, Lee.
thank you too. And we'll talk again next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you. I will stop.